Yo, chat, is this bike sick or what? Check, check, check. It's me again. I'm Skylar Howes. This is my 1997 CR500 desert race build. I build it to the spec of like a National Hare and Hound or a desert race bike. That's what I grew up racing in the Utah desert, and started racing National Hare and Hounds when I was about 16 years old. So my whole childhood is listening to 500 two-strokes and two-strokes in general, racing through the desert. I spent a lot of my childhood and actually all the way up into the start of my pro career on a two-stroke as well. So I have a soft spot for them, but this one specifically, the Utah Desert Racing Series back in the day in the early 2000s, was dominated by a couple of guys, Rob Phillips and also Dustin Hedman. And Dustin was known for racing the CR500. And there are times where he would come in so far into the lead and you could hear him leaving off into the distance and just hear the deep, sound of the CR500. And so that's kind of burned into my mind. I was just a kid, not even 10 years old at the time, and still remember it super clear. So these bikes are super special, really cool, and I'm proud of this one. This is my most expensive, most in-depth, crazy build I've ever done. And I didn't even do the motor. So Trace and Kirk at Fast Heads, he did the motor before I even got the bike. It blew up and blew the cases out. So he had to go and get the cases re-welded, machined, and completely redone. And then he put the motor essentially back to stock. So there's nothing really crazy. A lot of people do balance cranks and stuff, but this motor is essentially stock. It's paired up with a Nibby carburetor. I put the PWK 38 millimeter carburetor on there. What's cool about the Nibby is it has a power jet, so you can kind of fine tune your top speed, when you're wide open, how much fuel it's giving. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, the rest of the inside is pretty similar to just like a genuine Kean. The jetting and all that stuff is pretty similar. It's paired up with a power coupling that comes out of the head. This is pretty cool. It's made by MSV, and it just changed the power curve as the exhaust comes out of the front of the cylinder. Got the Pro Circuit exhaust, the factory exhaust on there. It just looks super sick, and the sound is even better. Of course, the overall look of the bike is based off like kind of the 97, 96 McGrath era 1-800 Collect. Thanks to Throttle Jockey for doing such a sick job on these graphics. It was their idea to put the 1-800 Howes on there, but don't call that number because I don't know what it goes to. The other things that sponsors and companies that have been behind my back that have helped me out with, IMS, they've always been a part of my program. They hooked it up with the foot pegs, the shifter, and the tank. Frontline suspension has this super, super cool dry brake that's all billet, and it has a twist off center, so you can still fill it up and you don't have to jam stuff down into the dry brake if you're just practicing with it. So this is one of the coolest things on there. Of course, BRP bar mounts and a Scott stabilizer, of course. Again, back in the desert, you need, especially on a twitchy two-stroke, you need a stabilizer on the bike, so we go with the best with Scotts. The other custom stuff that took a long time to get was the SPD triple clamps. So I have a full, complete modern front end on this, and it's possible to put, X-Trigs or whatever triple clamp you want on this with just a bearing adapter. But for me, it was kind of difficult to find the information of which triple clamp will work and how to adapt the front fender and front number plate to it as well. SPD is out of the UK, and they custom make these, so it's a plug and play. It plugs into the OEM bearings, and the stock fender and number plate will bolt straight on, and then you can put in modern forks. So I have 49 mil A-kit Showa forks on here, and it's a plug and play system. So that's really cool. It took, quite a while to get these from the UK. but it's well worth it for how easy the setup was and to adapt the modern front end to it. SPD also did the linkage, so I have a full billet linkage on this thing, which is really cool. And then they also supply titanium hardware, so I have all titanium like chassis hardware on there from SPD as well, and like some other cool little bits, anodized stuff, axles and, you know, axle nuts, things like that. The most important part of this whole bike is the suspension. To adapt the modern fork to the standard shock was not easy, and Pro Circuit did a really good job. All I've done really so far is change a couple clickers and set the sag, so they pretty much nailed it right off the start. The wheels are made by W. It's a Hahn hub with DID Dirt Star rim, built by W. So thanks a lot to those guys. They did a bang up job, and these wheels look great, and they're holding up. You know, they're the best in the business. So they're wrapped in a Pirelli tire. I went with the mid soft on this. You get a lot of really good traction and front end grip. The CR500 is kind of known for not having super good cornering characteristics. So when you have a good tire like this mid soft on the Pirelli, it's really nice. I got the Pirelli mousses in there as well. Motion Pro hooked it up with a lot of tools for this bike, a lot of bearing tools and just normal T-handles, you know, things like that. They also have parts, so I have a Motion Pro throttle, complete throttle assembly on here with the cable and housing and the tube. Works Connection is supplying all of the protection for this thing. So I got the frame guards, the skid plate, and I also have the clutch perch and lever from Works Connection. Really custom bit on this thing, which is really cool, is the oversized custom-made radiators by GMX. These are made to order, and they come out of the UK as well, I believe. I went with the oversized radiator on this desert build just because sometimes in Hare and Hounds you get into really some hard enduro sections or really technical canyons where you're not getting a lot of airflow, and just because the CR500, you know, can run hot, I went with the oversized radiators to keep it running cool. These things are beautiful, really well built, and keeping the bike nice and cool. Comes really close to that pipe there, so I might have to put a little ding in there to clear the radiator since it's so deep now, but yeah, really happy with all of that. It's Renthal sprockets, DID chain, BRP chain guide, twin air filter, of course. And yeah, this thing is one of my favorite bikes that I've ever built. It's the most expensive bike I've built, even with the sponsored product and discounts and things like that. I'm into this bike over 16 grand. I bought the bike for a good price too, cheap. I think I bought it for somewhere around $6,500. Normal CR500s in good condition will run you around 8 to 9. So I already started off with a good price on that, and I had sponsored products. I'm still into this bike over 16 grand. So when you see CR500s on for sale on Facebook Marketplace, and they're asking 15 grand for it, they're probably still going to lose money on that sale. So I'm really stoked on this. I plan to race it at National Hare and Hound and maybe some local races too. To be honest, most of the racing that I'm going to do in the US now is going to be mostly for fun. So I'm going to have a lot of fun on it and yeah, tear up the desert on this thing. That's it. That's all I got for this one. If you enjoyed the build, let me know. If you have any questions or comments, anything that you want to know about this specific build, put it in the comments below and I'll answer them. And if you want to see more builds, buy some merch so I can afford it.